Good morning and hyvää huomenta. I hope I got that right. I meant to say good morning in Finnish. I hope that worked. Welcome to this Data to Go event hosted by Matillion, Kaito and the Savings Bank Group in Finland. My name is Corne Human. I am the product marketing manager here at Matillion, and I am joined this morning by a couple of nice people who have pulled together with us to present this event to you. The first I'd like to point out is Markus Saari, CTO at Säästöpankkiryhmä, the Savings Bank Group. Again, I hope I got the finish right there, more or less. And from Kaito, I'm joined by Christian Henriksson and Erik Puskala. I will have these gentlemen introduce themselves in a second. Just a couple of housekeeping points quickly before we get going. Please note that we are recording today's session and we'll be sharing the recording as a follow-up action to you. Please hold off on any questions that you may have until the end of today's session. Keep yourself on mute if at all possible, please, during the meeting to help with the audio quality. We will address all of your questions directly at the end, or you may put them in the chat box if you have and prefer to do that. Also, I would encourage you to switch on your cameras if you're a guest and you want to ask a question. It's not necessary, but always nice. On our agenda today, I will be opening up with a short state of the industry presentation to set the scene, after which Markus will discuss their journey in building a cloud data platform and enabling broader use of data in decision-making at Savings Bank Group. And the team from Kaito will support Markus, certainly with the Q&A wrap-up section at the end of today's meeting. So once again, welcome, and thank you for joining us. I realize that some of you may not be familiar with Matillion and or Kaito, so let's do a quick fire round of introductions. Matillion's mission is to make the world's data useful, simple and straightforward. We offer solutions that enable cloud-native data transformation for the major cloud data platforms available today, and I'll tell you a little bit more about us later. I'll let the team from Kaito introduce themselves. Christian, Markus, and Erik, please go ahead.
Hi, so I'm Erik Puskala, one of the founders of Kaito. We are about 50 data professionals company who serves large Nordic companies, and we're one of the Snowflake premier partners there too in Nordics, also a premier partner for Matillion. And basically we work everything related to data and are happy to help you.
Yeah, good morning, everybody, from my side as well. So my name is Markus Saari. I'm representing the customer side here today, and I'm very happy to speak to you a little bit about our journey. So I'm the Chief Technology Officer for Finnish Savings Bank Group. I'm going to say a couple of words about the company and the bank group in the start of my presentation. So I'll go a little bit deeper there.
Thank you so much, Christian and Markus. Really nice of you guys to join us today. So without further ado, let's set the scene for today. I'm going to discuss how connecting data and teams closes information gaps. Now, I'll keep this quick, I promise. And as I paint a picture of some of our industry's biggest challenges around getting from data to information, what's holding modern analytics back, and how we breach the information gap created by these challenges. But first, a quick audience poll that will help you get in the right frame of mind. So let me just get the poll up. Just give me a second. My Zoom control seems to have disappeared on me. Rick, can you help? I don't see the poll controls anymore.
Yeah, I can launch that for you now. Let me just 2 seconds.
Thank you. I promise it was working fine earlier.
There we go. The poll should appear now.
Thank you. Can anybody confirm for me that you can see the poll? Christian and Markus, I can see results coming in.
Yeah, we're getting votes.
All right. So our question today is, are you on a cloud-based data stack? And I would like for you to select all that apply to you. Let's get an idea of where you're at on your journey on to the cloud and adopting cloud data technologies. All right, I'm going to end the poll and share the result. Final seconds, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And let's share the results there. Can I just confirm firstly, can everybody see the results? Rick?
Yeah, I can.
Thank you. All right, so it looks like, not surprisingly, most of you are already on this journey, and of course at different stages, and pretty evenly spread, more or less, in terms of adopting cloud data. It's very good to see that we have some curious minds on the call as well, but it looks like the bulk of our audience today is already on dealing with legacy and on-prem hybrid environments, and even quite a few entirely on the cloud, which is great to see. Now, let's talk a little bit more about how that presents some challenges to modern day organizations. And let me just share my screen again. Stop sharing the poll. All right. So I think we can all agree that some business ventures create value while other business ventures create waste. But all business create data. Nowadays, the difference between a value-creating business and a wasteful business venture is increasingly determined by their ability to apply analytics to that data. Analytics is what allows organizations to convert their raw data into meaningful information that drives action, creates opportunities, helps identify new revenue streams and predict trends, and for those who are really good at it, even prescribe the best action forward among many possible options. Information is what becomes of data when it becomes meaningful, useful, and valuable. Unfortunately, not all organizations are equally well positioned to leverage the power of a strong data analytics capability, and often fail at making the transition from data to information in a consistent and accurate way. So this failure of analytics creates a challenge we describe as the information gap. The information gap in modern organizations manifests itself in different ways, and I'll take a bit of time here to just talk you through some of the common challenges. So the first challenges or failure mode really that I want to look at that creates information gaps in modern organizations is a lack of data. When no data is provided, organizations are forced to fly blind, and as the saying goes, those who do not study the past are doomed to repeat the same mistakes, right? Here's some statistics on the impact a lack of data had on some companies in the real world. You can see there, 93% of companies who had their data center down for 10 or more days filed for bankruptcy in 1 year. And half of companies who lost data management capabilities, so just the ability to manage the data for more than 10 days, filed for bankruptcy immediately. And 94% of companies who suffer catastrophic data loss do not survive at all. In almost all of these cases, a significant loss of data or just the ability to manage the data is near fatal for that business. Simply put, for modern organizations, having no data is just not an option anymore. So let's say you have solved that first failure mode of having no data with good redundancy and maybe some failover strategies in place, and your data is relatively safe, right? This is a pretty common scenario, actually, where we have lots of raw data available and even a reasonable supply of derived information and knowledge. Yet, there is still a surprising amount of alternative or just outright bad interpretations based on misleading reports because of a lack of essential context, right? A lack of context leads to lots of alternative and often conflicting interpretations, which tends to create business myths instead of business intelligence, right? Let's look at this comparison of Blockbuster versus Netflix as an example. After 25 years of operation, Blockbuster had lots of data, but no contextual strategy of what to do with that data. By 2002, their valuation peaked at about $5 billion US. Yet by 2014, they were out of business, right? Compare this to Netflix, whose entire go-to-market strategy is based on serving contextual data. And after about 24 years this year of existence, they sit with an evaluation of 262 billion and about 209 million active subscribers. This is an organization that understands the value of data and shaped their business model around it. Blockbuster, on the other hand, didn't learn from their data, right? They tried adding many adjacent things to their core business, like introducing snacks and video game rentals and hiring out of gaming equipment, etc. The lack of a data vision combined with a poor data analytics practice at Blockbuster led them to pursue business myths that ultimately led to their closure. It's not that Blockbuster didn't have data, it's what they didn't do with that data that killed their business in the end. And the final failure mode is what we often see even after organizations address the previous two failure modes. At this point, you may have data and you even create good contextual information and knowledge from it, but we still fail to empower people to self-serve and apply it. Let's look at this example. For example, Target, a big US retail outlet. I'm sure most of you are familiar with. In 2011, Target executed an expansion plan to grow their business into Canada. They bought 120 and built 13 new stores. In 2 years' time, all 133 stores were closed. They wrote off losses of $2.5 billion US and had to lay off 17,600 people, which is a very sad thing to have happened. Why did this happen? Well, they tried to use their SAP systems made for the US imperial standards in Canada, which uses the metric system. Of course, there's other problems as well, but this was a biggie. This led to manual data entry to override the differences in standards used, and of course, created terrible data quality as a result. Their shelves, for example, didn't even fit some goods. Product dimension data was less than 30% accurate, and there was just no historic data, which meant there was no forecasting possible either. The end result was a complete disarray of operations. But hey, Corne, I can hear you say, surely we are not the next Blockbuster or Target. Now, your organization may not be one of the extreme examples I've mentioned so far, and I sincerely hope it's not. But the lesson here is that a mixture of seemingly smaller data challenges can eventually combine to create a big problem. You may experience or recognize some of these common challenges, which we broadly group into technology and people categories. Maybe you struggle with implementation issues, such as a growing number of data sources, or maybe it's the synchronization of data, such as taking data from a dashboard back into your operational system. Sometimes we call this sync back or reverse ETL. Or maybe your challenge is to improve the data culture in your organization, where you need to convince and train people on the benefits of self-serve and data governance. Either way, many of these common challenges are not new, but there is something different about modern analytics that make our challenge today even more daunting. And this relatively new aspect that adds to your challenge, of course, you guessed it, is data on the cloud. Now, it used to be that we referred to the 3 V's of velocity, variety, and volume to describe key data challenges. But as we modernize to the cloud, we have quickly run into the new form of problems called the 3 D's. This is because the use of cloud increases data distribution, allows for way more diversity, and permits data to be more dynamic, because in many cases there's fewer controls for it. The 3 D's have replaced the 3 V's, just as the cloud has replaced big data. If you're interested to find out more about this, we've done a webinar and some research with IDC earlier this year called Calming the Storm with Cloud Data Management. And you can download these resources from our website. Either way, big data was not the answer to the 3 D's, for sure. Allow me to share some data points about the 3 D's. On the diversity side of things, cloud is becoming more diverse than ever before, requiring analytic teams to process more types of data than ever: structured, semi-structured, multimedia, geospatial, social, you name it. In 2021, IDC found that 45% of organizations are using 4 or more distinct types of data. And last year, IDC found that 82% of organizations are integrating 10 or more data types for business intelligence, which is up from just 10% doing that 2 years before in 2018. So a tremendous growth in diversity of data. Next up, data is also distributed across more sources, of course, and this makes it very hard to collect and an increasing challenge. That same IDC study I mentioned before found that 95% of organizations have hybrid on and off-premise data and need to access over 1,000 different data sources on average. Cloud data is more dynamic as well. As you can see from this data point here, data engineers on average receive requests to add 26 new data sources per month. And this year, our research is showing us organizations are suffering 7.5 pipeline outages per month, which is based on known exceptions. So you have to ask yourself, what do they not know? And just how bad can it get? Being on the cloud, in other words, is not enough. It's about what you do on the cloud that really matters. And that's the challenge that makes the information gap even worse. So how do you overcome the 3 Ds then? Well, you have to combine data science and data engineering workflows. This has been a long time in coming now, but I think we're finally at a point where the collision of these 2 practice areas, data science and data engineering, is coming together, and the lakehouse architecture really helps here. Secondly, we think you should be creating shared, secure, and connected data sets. This is key as the workloads behind producing good data sets is increasing, and the only way really you can stay ahead of the demand for these is to reduce the duplication of effort. Here again, I think the right processing engine can make this so much easier. And lastly, never forget, you have to empower people, more users to work with your production data is the key here. And again, I think the lakehouse can help. So to close the information gap, we need accessible data integration that really helps analytics teams to get timely information circulating through their organization. This requires shared infrastructure that helps bring more data science into analytic pipelines and speed up your implementations. I mentioned the shared, secured, and connected data sets already. They help a lot to improve the latency of providing timely analytics. And lastly, you need to give everyone the right interface at a level that makes sense to them and can bring them together to achieve multiple things on a common platform. So keep it easy. Let me introduce you to Cloud Native Data Integration by Matillion. We build and maintain products that support all of the cutting-edge cloud data platforms out there today. We've built our platform on 4 basic tenets that we feel define the next generation of cloud native data integration solutions. It's easy to use. We leverage low code and, where possible, even no code design patterns to help speed up the process of workflow development. Our products are built on, around, and for the cloud data platforms that we support. And we have done that from the ground up around enterprise security, scalability, and portability needs. And lastly, our products are conceived around the idea of delivering rapid results and making iterative cycles fast and valuable and create value for your business with a very attractive consumption-based pricing model that doesn't require a lot of initial upfront cash layout. Our cloud native integration platform gives you ELT, extract, load, and transform architecture with direct integrations to modern cloud platform services, so you can maximize your entire ecosystem leverage. And we make use of custom-built push-down integrations to those leading cloud data platforms, which really lets you harness the power of the cloud, allowing you to further get value for money out of your cloud investment. DocuSign, for example, managed to deploy and saw value in just 2 days using our flexible and modern APIs, the deep native integrations, and the push-down architecture and simple cloud deployments that I've mentioned so far. So with that, as you say in Finnish, kiitos for listening to me, but it's not yet time for moi moi. For those of you who are not familiar with Finnish, I think moi moi means bye-bye. No, next up, we're going to listen to Markus from Savings Bank Group as promised. But first, let's try another poll. Let me see if I can get it going this time. Yeah, this looks better. I'm going to push our second poll, which is all about the question of how frequently are your dashboards refreshed today? Now, I would recommend you answer this poll with an average answer. Don't give us your best or worst case scenario. Let us know roughly how frequently your typical dashboards refresh today. I can see some people already responded, so thanks for that. I will share the results again as before. Okay, let's end the poll and share the results. So it looks like by far the majority of our audience today is refreshing their dashboards on a daily basis, which is great. Good progress, well done. But probably you're still getting demands for it being updated on demand in real time or near time. And that is, of course, a big a part of accelerating your implementation, improving your data culture, making people more reliant on the data to make good decisions is absolutely dependent on up-to-date data. And let's face it, up-to-date really means now. So with that in mind, I am going to switch gears and let Markus take over. Markus, I'm going to stop sharing my screen so you can go ahead and share your screen. Thank you. You'll have to unmute, please. Thank you. There we go.
All right, very good. I guess everybody can hear me and everybody can see my or our screen, hopefully. So that being said, thank you very much for having me here. It's super nice to come here and talk a little bit about our journey and our journey to the cloud and our data journey. So my name is Markus Saari. I'm the Chief Technology Officer for Finnish Savings Bank Group. I've been with the company about 3 years now. I joined the company about 3 years ago as a lead architect for data and analytics area, and that's kind of why I'm here today. I was appointed as the CTO for about starting this May. So now having a little bit larger or broader responsibilities within the company, but still my background, I've done about 20 years in the data and analytics area. So I still live and breathe for data. So probably that's why I'm here. Just a couple of words about the company itself. So once we get the slide change, yeah, there we go. The company, so we are a group of individual savings banks within Finland, and actually we are the oldest banking operator in Finland. We're actually celebrating next year our 200th years of anniversary in the business. So we've been in the business for a while. And from an IT perspective, you can imagine that there is a fair amount of IT systems involved in that time. Might be some legacy that has evolved also around that time. So yeah, there is a lot to go around. Effectively, our motivation as a company is to promote the well-being of the individuals and community. So we really want to be a kind of community and an individual provider. Just a couple of key figures. So like I said, we were established around 200 years ago. We're serving about 450,000 customers in Finland. We got about 120-ish branch offices, and we have about 1,400 employees across Finland. So we're about mid-sized banking group in Finland, not one of the largest, not one of the smallest, but somewhere in the mid-size. Of course, in European and in international perspective, we might be referred as small, but in Finland, we are about mid-sized. But that being said, so let's go a little bit into the agenda of today. So what are we talking about here, and why did we actually want to start this journey that I'm talking about here? So obviously, everybody, I guess, in the audience know that the demand for data in both business steering, customer engagement, whatever you might want to do, it has never been bigger. So everybody, that's not news to anybody, that if you listen to what people are speaking in seminars like this or anywhere in the media, everybody's talking about data. Your companies want to be data centric and data driven, and you want to use data within your customer engagement. You want to know more about your customers, and you want to know more about your business. And we're not any difference in that. So we're absolutely in the same boat with everybody else. So what I think that banking business effectively it is data business. So we don't in a way manufacture any tangible product from that perspective. What we do is we of course help people in their everyday lives, but effectively how we do it is with data. So we are a data-driven company, like any bank, any financial institution, or at least we should be. And I think together with Kaito and Matillion, we started our journey in that, or we started that journey, and we're in quite good way there. When I joined the company about 3 years ago, where we were, I mean, this is not really that different from any other traditional company story. Our data was siloed. Utilization of data was very complex. It required a lot of resources. And when I'm saying resources, I'm not talking only about money, but it was more also of human labor. So it was very complex, and it required a lot of resources, a lot of time, a lot of effort from our people to actually extract any information from the data and actually get your kind of overall view that where we are, how are we doing, and so forth. There are historical reasons to it. Like I said, we're a 200-year-old company. We've built stuff over time. We were also at the same time having some solutions that were approaching end of life. And at that time, what had happened is that our MO had changed also a little bit. So we felt that in the previous times we were working in a fully outsourced model. We were getting services from our core system providers, but at that point we felt that critical solutions such as our data and analytics platform, we need to take it into our own hands, and we need to start renewing. So we did some IT strategy work in that point, and in our IT strategy we defined cloud first strategy. So we want to evaluate if we need to put stuff in the cloud or not. We want to go cloud first, but in those discussions I said that okay, in data and analytics we're not cloud first, it's only cloud. So that's the only thing there is to it. This is directly from our CIO, Mr. Pekka Suomalainen. That's a couple of things that what we're looking at when we're going into cloud. And I'm not going to go into details of this, but what we are looking for is of course built-in security. Being a financial institution, that's very important for us. Built-in compliance, absolutely. Elasticity, higher availability, cost efficiency. So we were not necessarily looking for low cost. We were looking just cost efficiency. So what we want to have is that the cost scales together with the results that we get out of it. And time to value was especially important for us. So what we wanted to have is to really increase our time to value, our time to delivery, just to get things done. So, okay, that being said, if we think of those things that I just mentioned and the things what we were looking from the cloud, so how did we then go about and how did we then start to do stuff? So, like I said, elasticity was key for us. So we wanted to start small and scale out. So like I guess everybody in the audience knows, not all IT project or IT programs are a great success. So, and one of the good thing about this cloud environment is that you can actually start small and you can see if it's going to work out or not. And if it works out, then you can scale out and increase your usage. And I have to say for us, the scale out has been really fast, because eventually quite soon we realized that, okay, this is really the environment, this is really the platform that we want to use, this is the direction where we want to go. And then we could start scaling out and get the benefits that we were looking from it. Our key, like I said earlier on the previous slide, our kind of key topic was really the time to value, and I cannot stress that enough. So we were not necessarily looking to save money, we were looking to deliver more with same money that we were using. Of course, it's nice if you're saving money. That's, of course, everybody's happy about that. If you get more with less amount of cash, but effectively for us, it is really the time to value is the key. So we can really have a platform that we can demonstrate that we can actually deliver faster and deliver according to the priorities that we get from our business. So what we found out is the Dallas project, and the Dallas as the TV show that we all were looking from the analogical television back in the days. So the way the Dallas project was architected, that's pretty much on a very, very high level that I drew on the slide. So we're having our core systems, our core banking systems, still in our hosted data center. So that's hosted by our core system provider. We chose to build our Matillion and Snowflake infrastructure on AWS. Why AWS? You might ask. At this time, we had pretty much greenfield. If we are looking at, so we didn't really have any cloud environments ready. So we were discussing with our company, with our partner Kaito, and they kind of recommended they had done more work in AWS at that time. So it was pretty much a recommendation from them. And also we felt that AWS is a platform that we might want to utilize in some other projects in the future. So we went AWS. So we're running Matillion as our ETL processing environment in AWS, and we're running in the heart of everything. There is Snowflake, which we're running, like I said, in AWS. In the consumption area, or in the consuming system landscape, we're using Power BI as our BI and reporting tool. We have started to do some early analytics things in Microsoft Azure infrastructure, and actually something that has been really huge for us has been the usage of our integration platform, which we're running in Azure as well, and we're using that already as of today to integrate data from our Snowflake environment to our other consuming systems, for example, our marketing systems and our service desk, which might then reside on other cloud platforms as well. So as you can already see from this picture, we've already gone into a kind of a multi-cloud or hybrid cloud setup, if you will. And I think this has been one of the key designs for us as well, that we didn't like. There's a couple of ways to do this. You can of course decide that you go all in to one cloud. You can say we're all about Azure, we are all about AWS, or something like this. We didn't really want to go there. We wanted to go into more like hybrid setup, where we can say that, okay, we're going to use the best capabilities of each of these clouds and use them where we feel appropriate, and use them where we feel we get the best benefit. And actually, there's one added benefit of this strategy that I'm actually going to speak a little bit in the next slide. So in the next slide, we're going to talk, once we get the next slide up. That being said, where we are at the moment, where are we going with that? So the previous slide, the very, very high level architectural diagram, was pretty much illustrating where we are at the moment. So Dallas at the moment is a business data and analytics solution. That's effectively what it is. So we're using it to get the data, your traditional business analytics. You're getting your data out of your core systems. You're making some dashboards. You're doing analytics, your basic stuff. Where we are at the moment is that we are just in the point where we're starting to expand the platform. As our confidence with the platform and the capabilities of it has grown, we feel that we're confident of taking it into more business critical applications. So we're just doing one renewal in the regulatory reporting space, where we actually are putting the heart of our Matillion plus Snowflake environment in the feeding data in the regulatory reporting environments as well. We're going more and more, like I said, into direction of operational integrations as well. So we want to utilize this good data that we've been able to generate. We want to use it in the operational applications as well. We're probably going in one point of time into compliance and risk analytics scenarios as well, which of course are very important for us as a financial institution. And of course, what this means is that once we are moving into that space from this traditional business data and analytics space, we're going to face much tighter requirements for much tighter SLAs, obviously higher requirements for disaster recovery capability. And that's where the beauty of this cross-cloud environment comes into play. So I'm kind of very happy to say that we've chosen a platform with Snowflake and Matillion, where we are, first of all, cloud platform agnostic. So like said, we're running today our basic data platform in AWS, our consuming systems in Azure. But what we're actually doing as we speak is that we're replicating our Snowflake environment to Azure as well. So we would have Snowflake in both of the cloud platforms. What we probably will do in one point of time is that we will probably replicate our Matillion environment to Azure as well, so that then we're having a true multi-cloud or cross-cloud setup that we can actually which we can actually use to answer the requirements around disaster recovery and stuff like this. One Finnish flavor to this discussion, being a financial institution, is of course the national emergency requirements. In Finnish we call it huoltovarmuus, which means that if there would be a large international disaster, then there are certain things that we need to operate within Finland. And that is, of course, some of the requirements that we need to be very cognizant of, that once we're entering this space, then we need to start doing these kind of like national emergency plans, that how do we move these things then to Finland if required, if such events would happen. But we're still not there. We're of course all the time evaluating when are we moving to that direction, and probably that direction anyway is more than handled within our core systems. One thing that we need to, when I mentioned our core systems, is that one thing that we need to look at the moment, or in some point of time, sorry, is the last bullet. So at the moment we're not running any ETL or data warehouse automation tool. We might, once we are, because we are as a bank, we're in the middle of our core bank system renewal program, as probably everybody knows if you have been following us in the news. Once that program starts to be in the point that we're going to have a new core bank system, that's going to be a huge change for us in the source system space. So what we might want to do in that point of time is that we might want to reevaluate that architecture a little bit, see what's available in the data warehouse automation space, if we want to go there, if we want to start utilizing a tool like that to cater that huge change in our source systems. Then your traditional lessons learned slide. So I kind of wanted to tell you a little bit that, okay, what we've been working with this for about 1.5 years now, more or less. So what's the key takeouts on that? So I guess the first key takeout is you should start, really. Like, if you haven't started doing these kinds of things, I would say there is no excuse. Literally, you need to get it going because the benefit is really there. That being said, the second takeout is really get some help. If you don't have the resources on your own, really get some help. So what has really been a key thing for us, and what I would really like to emphasize to everyone, that you need to build your internal team with your key resources. As good as any of the vendors are that we're talking today about here, you need some internal key people at your side. So what we feel is that there are basically these 3 key resources that you kind of need to have on your own. You need to have your cloud/technology/architecture, the general IT guy. That would be myself in our scenario. Then you need to have your information architect, and I cannot stress that enough. For us, she has played a really pivotal role in this, and that's something that I very often see that it's overlooked. I mean, people are not, or companies are not seeing that much the importance or the value of information architect, but that role is crucial for any data platform initiative. And then you need to have a really good PO or a product owner who keeps all the backlogs in shape, everything, all the priorities in check and everything. So once you have those roles in-house, then you need to find a vendor. You need to have a company that's going to help you with that. We were very happy to team up with Kaito. We've been working with them for 1.5 years now or around, and we have been very, very happy with them. The working with them has been smooth. Of course, like in any partnership, you have your ups and downs. That's normal in any IT project, but overall, I would say definitely we can recommend them to anybody in the audience. Then after you build your team, you have your vendor, you need to choose your tech stack. I mean, effectively, I spoke what our tech stack is. That seems to be a really good fit for us. Of course, you need to choose something that fits your needs. So you might have nuances here and there in your IT strategy, in your cloud strategy, in wherever that might affect your choices. But effectively, you need to choose what is the stack that fits your needs. There is not one stack that will fit everybody. You need to choose the stack that fits you. A couple of key takeouts or observations. So I spoke about cost earlier. Like I said, we didn't look for low cost per se, but what I'm very happy to say that we got it as a side product. So our cost level has been very pleasant, to be honest, and the solution seems to be very cost efficient. So our running cost at the moment is very sustainable, and at the moment, and what I really feel is important is that we are actually now in the model that we don't need to do your upfront investment. So the traditional way of doing things was that you're going to buy some hardware, you're going to buy some licenses, and you spend couple of millions before you even started anything. Now we didn't spend those millions in upfront. Of course, we will effectively end up spending money, but we're spending money along the way that we're actually getting the deliverables and the results from this platform. We've not really had any platform downtime in about 1.5 years. Super nice, has been stable. And of course, coming with Snowflake, it's zero footprint, so zero management footprint. So we have effectively been running this platform for 1.5 years, doing quite a lot of stuff. Didn't do any DBA work, didn't do any management work, and we hadn't had any downtime. So pretty nice. One observation, being a company with 200 years of background, like I said, you can imagine that we have quite a lot of core systems that are not really up to date on the modern technologies. Probably some people in the audience have the same. So if you are in the same boat, you might want to reserve some time for getting the data out of your legacy systems. That, of course, will be the challenge, but it will take some time, but it's doable. So as a closing remark, if you haven't done anything in the cloud, you don't have you're not working with the cloud at the moment, data platform, that is a good place to start the cloud journey, because at the end of the day, it will be your centerpiece in your cloud architecture. But if you do it like us, that you start from there, you need to plan some extra time for it. Because to really, really be able to utilize the beauty of the cloud platforms, you need to invest some time in the beginning to build your kind of solid base for your cloud environments, to utilize fully the native services and the native methods. So I really would want to end this session by quoting our CIO, Mr. Pekka Suomalan, that really lift and shift, it is not a cloud transformation. So if you want to do a cloud transformation, you're not doing it so that you take your existing stuff, throw it in the GCP or Azure or AWS. You really want to build it natively from ground up. So that being said, in the next slide, we have the traditional questions and comments. So if anybody has any questions, I'm more than happy to answer. There's my email as well. First name dot last name at säästöpankki.fi. So feel free to shoot me an email if there's something coming further up.
Thank you, Christian. Just a quick check, Christian or Eric, do you have anything to add at this point before I take the screen back and we go into the Q&A?
Yeah, I want just to thank you, Markus, for good words about our company, and of course also the good lessons learned. I was actually really enjoying those because those are so true, and usually the benefits that we're trying to emphasize that will be coming from cloud. So it's good that you have been really successful on those and finding out those.
Yes, thank you so much for your presentation there. Much appreciated, Markus. All right, so back to our data champions. I would like to encourage everybody who's attending our session to present some questions either in the chat of Zoom, or if you prefer and you would just like to speak up, that's also totally acceptable. And in fact, I would encourage some engagement here. Ask us any questions you would like from either myself, Kaito, or Säästöpankki. Let me see what we have on chat, if anything. Okay, I'm just going to put the chat window to the side and fire off. First question I've got here is directed at Markus. How do you see the balance between the use of external consultancy like Kaito and internal resources? What has been the benefit of external data and architecture expertise in this case, Markus?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and we actually discussed it a little bit with Erik before the session. But I think, like I said in the presentation, it is of course a little bit depending on the strategy of your company and how do you want to work. So our company's overall strategy in our project is that we try to run a quite small internal organization. So our plan is not to grow our internal organization that much, and we're working completely outsourced when you think about development perspective. So we wanted to balance our team so that we want to staff the key resources in our own team, in our own company, like said, the key architects, PO, some other people. But then we also feel that the implementation vendors like Kaito, for example, they can provide us the flexibility and scalability in the resources that we could never staff internally. So they have the expertise. They are also working with other companies, other customers, and getting the best practices from there. And then when we have a growing need or a pressing need to scale on the development team, we also get that from them. So I think it's always a mix of capabilities, and depends on what your company's overall staffing strategy is. But we have really felt that this model that we've chosen with Kaito here has been very suitable for us, because like being said, we're getting out from them the expertise that what they're doing with other customers, and also we're getting the scalability in the resourcing.
And I think what I heard you say earlier on, Markus, as well, is just the time to implement, the time to value ratio is so much better if you leverage people who really know what they're doing, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, we fully recognize the fact that we don't have all the expertise in the world within the company, and especially in our small organization, we don't even want to have all the expertise in the world. So to get that time to value out, you really need to utilize the expert, like you said, who know what they're doing.
Yeah. Thank you, Markus. Christian, would you like to add anything?
Probably not Christian, but I can. So yeah, I would say that I definitely like that customers have the necessary key resources themselves, at least, so we can help them better. And we have been working with different companies in many different ways, and usually we kind of find out the best way of working with each customer, what will be suited best. But yeah, the key resources, I think that is most crucial to have in-house in many ways, and we have been partly working in cases also that we have been working as internal resources for that time that the new team is hired or kind of on the right road.
Yeah. Understand.
Get
A bit of
that,
coaching
so.
and mentoring
Yeah, exactly.
goes a long way. Yeah. Understand.
Yeah.
Thank you. We've got a question from Matt Dalfors, who's asking Markus, can you tell us a little bit of the GDPR challenges you faced moving into the cloud, Markus?
Sure. So GDPR is always a challenge depending on, regardless where you're moving or if you're not moving the cloud or if you're moving the cloud. The way I see it is that the GDPR is not that much of a cloud challenge per se. It's an architectural challenge, and it is not really dependent on the fact that if you're hosting your environments or cloud in cloud or not. Of course, being in EU and looking at the GDPR and other regulation, we need to ensure that you run all your, if you are putting stuff into cloud, you really need to be careful that you ensure that all your data assets are reside within the EU boundaries. So that's just one thing. But of course, this is now starts to be more and more day-to-day business. So with platforms like AWS and Azure, you can ensure that you're using local assets here or local data centers within the EU area. So that's not that much of an issue. I think it's more like an architectural pattern that once you're moving away from this kind of like singular data center idea and you're spreading your solutions into multiple locations and multiple services, you of course need to be very, very aware where your data is and where your personal data is and where your GDPR data is. But then of course I also feel that solutions like what we're building here, utilizing modern technologies, they can also help you there. So there are methods, your data catalogs and all that kind of stuff, which can actually help you to know where your GDPR related data is, and you can tag your GDPR data and you can actually query those tags and you know that, okay, I have here and there and there, I have GDPR related data. And once I'm doing GDPR regulatory required or GDPR compliance processes, then you already know where your stuff is and what your data estate is.
I guess in a way, GDPR really forces organizations to do good information architecture, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I personally feel that GDPR, it is giving us a lot of requirements, but I'm actually a little bit of fan of the GDPR. I think it has been a really good thing that this has been written out loud, that companies like ourselves and any other companies, we really need to be careful with the personal data. And like you said, it forces us to actually know what we're doing with the data and actually forces us to take care of our information architecture, that we actually know our data assets in and out.
Thank you. We just got another question from, I hope I pronounce your name correctly, Sade Haveri, to Markus again. As a lead information architect, I'm curious to what you see is the most valuable thing you have got out of the IA role. You mentioned it in your talk as a critical role. Again, information architect. Is it overall understanding of the data or something else?
Yeah, I think there's probably two sides of the story here. So absolutely, it's a critical role. Information architecture is a critical thing. I think the overall understanding of the data is one thing. So your traditional information architecture benefits that once you start to do your information architecture, probably you have this common language with your business that, you know, we as an IT people can speak with business with common terms and common information terms and stuff like this. But then being a financial institution, there's the compliance side of things that we were discussing earlier, for example, GDPR. So doing proper information architecture and knowing our data asset, it really helps us in the compliance as well. So we can more securely and safely report to regulators that, okay, here, this is how we run, this is where our data is, this is how it's working, and also we can ensure that we are GDPR compliant. So I think there's these two sides to it. There's the really the business discussion that we can really have proper common terminology to discuss with the business. But then, of course, for us being a bank, there's the compliance side as well.
Right. Thank you. Next question is about some of the examples. Do you have any specific examples of limitations that you've experienced before you implemented Matillion? And I'm guessing this is through Kaito. And what's the impact of those limits being removed or reduced by implementing Matillion as part of your data cloud stack?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the general, well, we've been working with this for about 1.5 years, and of course we feel that we've taken some baby steps. We're in the early stages of things, so we haven't probably still hit any of the actual, like say, technical limitations. But I think one of the limitations that we had earlier, of course, was the scalability that I mentioned. We had to work with kind of fixed assumptions that you have to assume that you need a fixed amount of resources, and then once your resources are basically fixed and you can't really scale them. Whereas now we are in the point that if we need to pilot something or we need to test something, we can just spin up new environment and we can spin up a new warehouse in the Snowflake, and then we can just run some tests whatever we need, and then we're just paying for the consumption of the resources that we're taking. And I think so that's probably something that we didn't have earlier. And I think once we start to move further and further into more, let's say, non-structured data sources that might be coming up in the future, then of course we start to really test those capabilities that we didn't have in place earlier.
Yes. Well, thank you. I see we're coming up to the end of our time slot today. I have one more question left as a closing one. I have noticed, and this is from myself, this question, Markus and Kaito, you guys have been working on the Dallas project. Have you figured out yet who killed Bobby Ewing?
That's probably the kind of like ultimate end of the analytical questions that we're facing here. So once we get there, then I think our work's done. So at least from my perspective, it's still in the mix. So not sure about it yet.
Yeah, we still need more data.
Excellent answer. Thank you so much, all of you joining us, Markus, Eric, Christian. I really appreciate your time, and I'm sure our audience does as well. If anybody on our call today, if you're interested to get impressed and see some of this valuable improvements experienced by Säästöpankki in action, please join our regular demos. We do this every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern time, and we encourage active engagement on those as well. So you'd be welcome to bring your questions and actually see the product in action. So with that, the only thing that remains to be done is to say thank you. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. And as you say in Finland, moi moi.